Ah, there you are. I was expecting you. Let us begin.
Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight, the King of Gods, the Lord of Cinder. A mysterious and legendary man, arguably the most important figure in the Dark Souls series. But we know little of his family. Born in the Age of Ancients to unknown parents, the first familial link we have is his uncle Lloyd, later worshipped as Allfather Lloyd for a time by the Way of White, although this practice died out and even his name was lost to history. In fact, the clerics of Carim claimed that he was nothing but a fraud, and he named himself Allfather to solidify his power. We also know that he had 4 children to an unknown mother. His eldest son, whose name has been erased from time after betraying his family and siding with their mortal enemies, the dragons. His eldest daughter, Guinevere, was revered as a goddess of bounty and fertility, and went on to marry the flame god Flann, bearing many children. Gwyn's second son was named Gwyndolin, a frail and sickly child with a strong affiliation with the moon. Because of this, Gwyndolin raised him instead as a daughter. His final child, a daughter named Filianor, suffered the worst fate. She was left in the Ring City to await a return that would never come, and so she slept. The first flame was born, and within it, Gwyn found his Lord Soul, the Soul of Light. Alongside his companions, Nito, first of the dead, wielding the Soul of Death, and the Witch of Izalith, holding the Soul of Life, they waged war on the ancient dragons that ruled over the land. However, we know that he was already head of a mighty army, and so he was likely born into some sort of royalty even before becoming the Lord of Sunlight. Gwyn, empowered by the Light Soul, harnessed the power of lightning and was able to conjure up solid bolts that he would grasp and throw at his enemies. He and his armies used the lightning to peel the scales from the dragons' hides, whilst his companions used their own unique powers to slay the now defenceless creatures. At some point, either before or during the war, a dragon known as Seath the Scaleless betrayed his own kind, slaying many dragons and pledging himself to the service of Gwyn. After the dust had settled, all the dragons were slain. Seath was embraced for his service and made a duke, whilst Gwyn established himself as the Lord of the Gods. Thus began a golden age for the gods of Anor Londo, who ruled the kingdom of Lordran with a might none would have dared to challenge. During this time, Gwyn consolidated his power base, taking on races like giants that others looked down on, even going so far as appointing one to his legendary 4 knights. He also commissioned the Ring City for the Pygmies as a gift, along with his daughter Filianor. But in return, he placed a seal of fire on the inhabitants and their weapons, fearing their innate darkness. But that is another tale for another bonfire. Gwyn also used this time to hunt down any remaining dragons he could find, dwindling them down to extinction, with the exception of a handful of solitary survivors scattered far and wide. But as all things begin, so too must they end. The age of fire began to fade, and the darkness loomed. The age of man was coming. But Gwyn feared the dark. When it came time for the age of gods to end, he balked. First, the Witch of Izalith tried to recreate the first flame, but instead created chaos, turning herself and most of her children into hideous monstrosities, and birthing demons that spilled forth into Lordran. Gwyn, alongside his famous Silver Knights, met the demons of chaos in battle, their flames charring his knight's armour black. They successfully managed to contain the demons within Izalith, and it would appear they even tamed some of the beasts, putting them to service. By now, Gwyn realised what had to be done, and set about dividing his power up amongst his clan. For Seath and the 4 kings of New Londo, he split his Lord Soul and granted them each a fragment. Once most of his power had been distributed, he took his Black Knights and marched on the kiln of the first flame. He knew from the witch's mistake that the flame could not be replaced, it must be rekindled. And the only thing powerful enough to feed the first flame was a mighty soul, and so Gwyn used his own soul as Cinder and claimed his final title, the Lord of Cinder. But his story did not end here, for no matter how powerful he was, defying nature in the way Gwyn had done is not easy, and even his soul could not feed the flame forever. But Gwyn had accounted for this, and he had instructed his children to guide the humans, alongside Kingseeker Frampt, primordial serpent and Gwyn's close friend, and so was the chosen undead prophecy born. The clerics of the Way of White were also taught to use humanity to kindle the flames of the bonfires linked to the first flame, helping to delay the end of the age. And while all of this happened, Gwyn waited, or rather, what was left of him, waiting for the chosen undead that would fulfill the prophecy and rekindle the flame anew.
Now go. Whatever you do, do not crack and go hollow, lest my time spent on you be wasted.